Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Chabad of Rechavia and Nachlaot in Yerushalayim, wherever you are in the world. It is a great honor to be able to have our events, classes, and in this case, a special lecture by our very own Chanoch Rubel. In general, we have been increasing our adult education online, especially ever since the corona about 8 or 9 months ago. And a lot more people have been joining us for regular classes and events. We also have started this past year, and even before the corona, and now we're starting it even more to have monthly lectures. You can find it in our new calendar for this year of 5781, and we'll also have the advertisements about the lectures on our emails and WhatsApp broadcast lists. It is very important for us to be able to have regular lectures, which each one has its own subject and inspiration, with the various different types of topics, in order that we should bring you the best adult education possible. Tonight is extra special for us, because Chanoch is part of our community, one of the pillars of our community. And for Chanoch to be able to share with us his own thoughts based on the teachings of Kabbalah is super special and very inspiring to me personally, and I know to others in our community. We are now at the beginning of the Torah. In the first parsha, we talked about Chanoch, and I know that on the Shabbos, Bereshis, Chanoch, by divine providence, got that aliyah, talking about Chanoch. That was a real big hashgacha pratit. And Chanoch plays a major role every time we have classes in Kabbalah and subjects connecting with Kabbalah, whether our course, that we talked about the 10 Sphero, and so on and so forth. Chanoch always gives us insight and lights our eyes into insights of the teachings of Kabbalah. Chanoch has come up with a beautiful essay and a wonderful presentation on his own thoughts in the Hey. Every letter of the Aleph Bet is very unique, and Chanoch has realized one of the fundamental concepts in Kabbalah is the letter Hey, which compares to the Malchut. And Chanoch, this subject which we're learning now comes after the Shabbat, which we just read, Parashat Noach. By the way, the word Noach, 2 letters of Noach, Nun Chet, is in the word Chanoch. Chet Nun are the first 2 letters of Chanoch, and Noach, if you switch them around, is the Nun Chet. And there's a very interesting, very short anecdote that I want to share with you before Chanoch begins. And that is that it says in Parashat Noach that in the year 600 to Noach's life, that's when the Malchut began. All of the well springs, all the water from beneath and from above just opened up, and there was a tremendous outpour of water, and of course that led to the Mabul, to the flood. But according to the teachings of Kabbalah and Chassidut, that does not only refer to literal water, but it also refers to spiritual outburst of knowledge. And roughly, in the year 5,500, this is the Zohar says, which is the beginning of the second half of the 6th millennia, which is associated with the year 600 to the Noach's birth, there will be a tremendous outburst of knowledge of Kabbalah in the world. And that's exactly what happened approximately around the time of the birth of the Baal Shem Tov. Not only heavenly knowledge, but also worldly knowledge. Technology in its early stages started then, around 350 years ago. And this is a perfect time for us to delve into a beautiful insight, which is connected to Kabbalah, which is right after the Shabbat of Parashat Noach. Without any further ado, I would like to ask our very own Chanoch Rubel to be able to share with us a special lecture in the subject of growing a wiser heart. Thank you. And of course, thank you to Raya and Mordechai, as always, for hosting this special shiur. Bevakasha.
Welcome and shalom. My name is Chanoch Rubel, and I'm very happy to be with you this evening. Tonight, I'm going to present the subject I've been studying for many years, and I think you will find of great interest. The topic is called Growing a Wiser Heart, the art of giving with joy and receiving with gratitude. But first, I want to take a moment to thank a few people who have made this event possible. Rabbi Goldberg, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you tonight. And I would also like to thank Mordechai and Raya Meltz for their technical support. So tonight I'll be showing you a few visual outlines that are going to show the difference between how Hashem creates and how human beings create. And we'll be talking about the difference in process and the difference in results. The visual outlines that I will show you show how even when we look at the same things, because of the different world views we might have, we see the same thing completely differently. And perceptions and consciousness of what reality is are often so completely different. Both sets of visuals will show models which we call transformation of information, and a filtering system, how information gets from one location to another. One model offers unity and a safe home. The second model differs. It creates separation, diversity, and insecurity. So to start off, let me show you something that has to do with how we express ourselves. And this has to do with our thought, speech, and action. Now, Chabad teaches us that the letter Hey, the fifth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is a good display of our thought, speech, and action. So thought is our first experience with the external world. And our thoughts mold our perceptions and our sense of reality. How we receive information, and it makes possible our worldview of our reality. Speech is the first act of giving to another. And it expresses our thoughts, sometimes not quite fully, but it at least expresses a portion of our thoughts. And sometimes our speech can be completely different from our thoughts. Action separates thought from speech. It's the giving of oneself to another, and it makes possible good deeds. But also, we can do some misdeeds as well. The idea of action makes possible something very important, a core value in Judaism, and it's the idea of teshuvah, forgiving. But it's the type of forgiving that makes possible to change an act from the past and bring it into the present and the future. I believe this is a very unique quality of Judaism. Now, the second model I want to show you has to do with something called the Sphero tree. And this is a Kabbalistic model that shows how the creator of all that exists and the sustainer of all creation, Hashem, also known here by the name of the Ein Sof, or the crown of creation, gives information firstly to the intellect. And in the intellect, a place called Chachma that receives the information, it is then transmitted to a place called Bina, from which we try to understand what is this divine wisdom that we've been receiving. After all, we're only the finite creation, we're not the infinite. And from Bina, information goes to a place where the information becomes knowledge that we really do understand, and that's called Dot. What Dot does, it prepares the information to go into our emotions. So first we receive with our intellect, then information goes into our emotions. Chesed, a place of kindness and loving kindness, is the first place where we receive information. Chesed expands the information to give and give. But sometimes too much giving is not always the best for us. The information is then transmitted to a place called Gevora, where we exercise self-control. Self-control doesn't mean we're not giving. It means we're giving in a different way. It's still something that's good. And from Gevora, information goes to a very interesting place, which is called Ferret, and that is where we experience compassion and mercy. One might ask, what is really the difference between Chesed and Tiferet? Because sometimes we use compassion and kindness in synonyms. So a difference I'll suggest to you is that Chesed and also Gevora are emotions that go in one direction. For instance, you can be very kind to someone. They may never know the kindness that you did, or they may not think the kindness is even kindness. They think of it as something else. So the information is going in one direction. But if we come to a place of compassion, we have bi-directional information. And by that I mean that the giver gives to the receiver in the way the receiver can best receive. And the receiver receives from the giver in a way the receiver can best receive from the giver. So we have the beginnings of a very special type of relationship. So after the emotions, information goes to three areas in which we respond and behave. The first is called Netzach, which means strength, that we have the strength and determination to communicate with our intellect and our emotions in a good way to both Hashem and to other people. From Netzach, information goes to Hod. For some of us, we may think that because we have privileged information, we think that maybe we're a little bit better than other people. And that's why Hod is important, because it teaches us sincere humility. Some people feel humility is not a sincere expression, but we're talking about sincere expression of humility. Now, all of these intellectual faculties and emotional faculties and behavioral responses come to a place called Yesod, which is a foundation we can build our life upon, consisting of bonding and trust. And when we reach this very special place of security, bonding, and trust, we reach a magical place called Malchut, and it's a state of wholeness, which includes the attributes that we had just talked about, and we have a sense of perfect security, and we have a way of connecting with Hashem, that the energy and the information from Malchut goes up to Keter, and the information from Keter, the Ein Sof, comes to Malchut, and it creates a sense in Hashem that he wants to descend to the place of joy and to the place of gratitude. And that's where Hashem wants to make his new home. So where Hashem has a home, we have a home. And we have a pathway to help unite us and to come into our home. Now, you remember that I talked about the model of thought, speech, and action. And I'm not sure exactly how, but it came to me when we look at the open space in the letter Hey, that we can put into it the model of the idea of divine energy and divine information, which is the Sphero tree. So that's what I did. I took the two models and combined them. So we have our thought, speech, and action, combining with our emotions, our intellect, our behaviors, and also combining with Hashem through the Ein Sof, and leading us down into the Malchut, which is this magical space of knowing our purpose and where we can have joy, and we make a happy space for ourselves. So these little information nodules, the Sphero nodules, create a possibility of a new sense of relatedness. And this is what Hashem gives to us when he gives us Torah. It's about a new way that we can relate with our God and we can relate with each other. And I don't believe this ever existed before in history when we were giving the Torah. And I'm not so sure that it exists even today in many other belief systems and ways of thinking. So this model I call the upward Hey Sphero combination. But needless to say, there's another model lurking out there, and I call this the inverted Hey Sphero system. This is where everything gets turned on its head, that positive attributes and powers really become negative. So we have the letter Hey, we have our thought, speech, and action that gets turned upside down. Thought isn't the first attribute, but rather it's the bottom attribute. And then we have and then we have speech and action. So what happens is the inverted model is that instead of Hashem, the creator of goodness, the creator of everything that exists, and the sustainer of everything that exists, instead we have the Malchut. And this Malchut becomes something different. It becomes the center of self-centeredness, ego self-centeredness. And it changes the whole idea of what's possible and how we relate to reality. So Hod, instead of becoming a place of empathy and humility, becomes a place of pride and vanity. Netzach, instead of becoming a place of strength to promote these wonderful values that Hashem teaches to us, becomes a place of strength in making the ego even stronger. So it's also a place of self-centeredness. Ferret, instead of being a place of compassion, is a place of how I can get more from other people, how I could take more. So Chesed also becomes a place of kindness through which we can manipulate other people to get what we want. And Gevurah becomes a place of discipline to teach ourselves, again, how we can get more from other people. It's not about giving with joy and receiving with gratitude. It's about taking for our own benefit. Our intellect also changes. The knowledge is how to get more knowledge to manipulate. The Bina is to understand how we could make ourselves more powerful. And the Chachma is a place of gathering more wisdom but it's not a positive wisdom. Again, it's about a wisdom of taking. And at the very bottom of this model, which was once at the top of the positive model, is Hashem if he exists at all. So this is what man is capable of creating, and the upright version is the model of what Hashem is capable of creating. And in our lives, we can exercise our free will as to which model we want to choose. So it's all about choice. In some quarters, in some of the social sciences, they like to point out that we actually don't have free choice, that things are determined for us. And we could look at Marxism, psychology as a way of showing us that we don't have free will. But Judaism is very different. It says that we do have free will. Maybe not in all things, but we do make choices in our life that affect the type of person that we choose to become and affect other people and certainly affect Hashem and determine the type of reality that we're hoping to create. We can be partners with Hashem and create a very beautiful and positive reality, or we can be self-serving egocentrist, where the reality is only to benefit us. And there's a big difference between the two. So the beauty of looking at these two models is that we choose if we want to grow a wiser heart and to create, in effect, a new emotion. It's amazing to think about that we actually have this power. Not exactly like Hashem, but that we could create to combine the emotions of joy and gratitude. And I think it's so beautiful to consider that combining these two emotions brings more trust into the world. We know that we can trust ourselves, we can trust our partners, and we can trust Hashem. And something really amazing to think about. Faith, under this model, then becomes knowledge. So we could trust the faith that we have. And the faith that we have also changes the sense of relationships we come into. On the one hand, under the ego model, relationships could represent control and benefiting ourselves. On the other hand, relatedness could be a sense of mutuality and reciprocity and creating a world that is better to give gratitude and joy to Hashem, the Creator, and to know that we become a true partner with Hashem. So what I've tried to explain is to show the faculties and attributes that are within us, the thought, speech, and action, the use of our intellect, the use of our emotions and our behaviors, and how what we put together is really our own sense of identity, and we can make a choice if we accept the upright Sphero model or the inverted. When we say the world is upside down, it is upside down in many different ways. And this will be the model for taking. And this creates a world that's not such a happy world. And we can look at our own world. Taking means that you want to take advantage of someone. You want to take what they have, make what they have yours. There's competition. There's rivalry. We have wars, all in the name of taking, that we convince ourselves is really justice and is really making us better and the world better. But it's not true. The truth is, when we want to become partners with Hashem and accept the incredible benefits that He gives to us, and we have trust in Hashem, and we can have the joy of receiving, and what Hashem wants more than anything is that we choose to give gratitude back to Hashem. And that is the world that Hashem wants to descend to. Hashem is up somewhere high. We don't know exactly where. But Torah teaches us that Hashem wants to descend to the lowest world that we inhabit and be part of it. And if we want to know why, It's because Malchut is the place of gratitude and joy. So let me say, by way of summary, what a privilege it has been to be with you this evening, and to just sort of summarize that all life, scientifically, societally, culturally, and religiously, proceeds on the basis of transmitting and receiving information. And the information that we receive and how we receive it really determines our relationships in life, our relationships with ourselves, with others, and of course with God. So if I can offer a blessing for all of us, there is none like our God. And may we be blessed to choose wisely, to give and receive wisdom, understanding, and knowledge that brings about love, compassion, and self-control, and that we experience with our inevitable broken-heartedness and inevitable sadnesses in life, simultaneously joy, gratitude, trust, peace, and harmony. Thank you all for allowing me to be with you.
Awesome. Chanoch, you're amazing. Unbelievable. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. This was really professional, and it's been a pleasure to be able to see you grow in your Yiddishkeit and grow in your learning and your teachings. And Bezrat Hashem, we should be able to have many conversations in the future and hopefully more presentations. That was really, really special. And of course, thank you to Raya and Mordechai for putting together all these graphics. It was really, really impressive, and I really appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to post them over here on the comments or on the message board on Facebook Live, and hopefully Raya will send them to me, or maybe Raya can read them. And hopefully Chanoch, hopefully we'll be able to ask you the questions in just a moment. I just want to mention that every morning we have a class over here on the same link. This is the link that we use for all of our classes in the morning, 9:30. Every morning, also Friday mornings, Kabbalah Cafe, also at 9:30, and Tuesday evenings at 7:30, Bezrat Hashem, throughout the year. Yes. So, Chanoch, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Rabbi.
Okay, great. Great. Okay, so one question that I have for you, with your permission, is as follows. Is that I noticed that in the hay, there's a break between, the top line is the thought, the line on the right-hand side coming down is speech. That one is connected to the top. But the line on the left is a broken line. It's not connected, which this line represents action. Unlike by the chet, that the action is connected to the top. So the action in this case is not connected to the top. Can you please share with us an idea, perhaps an insight, of why is the deed in this case separated from the top, if that's possible?
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. So the thought and speech, we know, are connected because the speech is often some type of expression of all of our thought, but more likely a part of our thought. Our actions actually sometimes reflect our thought and speech, and sometimes they do not reflect our thought and speech. So, but the actions are where the real action is. And that's why actions are called mitzvot. It's a greater mitzvot to perform something that's going to be an improvement for ourselves, that's going to make the lives of others better, that bring on more relationships with Hashem. The thought and speech really don't do that. So that's why there's a difference between the thought and speech and the action as I understand it. And I will turn the question back to you about the letter chet, if you want to talk about that. But it's amazing to think about, what are we? And how do we relate to the world except through our thought, speech, and action? And the choices that we can make to so improve things in these very difficult times and challenges that we're facing, we have the choice. And we can teach those around us and who are close to us about the importance of these two models. We choose the upright hay, we choose the inverted hay. And this was my little contribution. I hope that can help to make a better world, more happiness, more joy, more trust, and certainly more gratitude.
That's great. Much more than a little contribution, a huge contribution. And so basically, you asked about the chet, and according to the teachings of Nigla, of Mishnah and Talmud, so the chet represents chametz, which represents the fact that there's no opening. By the hay, there's an opening at the top, and when there's an opening at the top, that means that there's a greater connection to Hashem, as opposed to the chet, where it's locked in the negative sense, and so therefore that shows more the ego expression of the individual. When it comes to the teachings of Kabbalah, I'm not sure if the chet is necessarily a negative thing, as opposed to the hay, but I would like to focus, like pretty much what you said on the hay itself, is that there's something unique. The fact that there's a separation between the action and the thought and speech is something, it's just coming to emphasize how important action is. While thought and speech are very important, each one has plays their own role in our experience of Yiddishkeit and learning Torah, but the action is a whole other realm for itself. In a sense, it's related, obviously, but it's in its accomplishment, the action is much, much greater than thought and speech. It's not just thinking about, when you want to do good. And you talk about Avraham Avinu and kindness. You talked about doing, being very kind. You can think about bringing someone a coffee. That's wonderful. It's a wonderful thought. But if you didn't you can even talk about it. You can encourage someone else, and you can talk about how important it is to bring someone a coffee. But if you didn't get up and warm up the water and make the coffee, the guy is not going to receive the coffee, because the main thing is the action. The main thing is the deed, and we can only accomplish in this world, and it's priceless. In the next world, one cannot accomplish. One cannot do the deed, and it's that's why when it comes to the reward is going to be in this world, because this world is where it all counts. So thank you so much for leading us into this great insight. I have to mention that Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope that soon Hashem will take away this terrible virus in the world, and we'll be able to have more classes in person. We're thinking of starting the Tuesday night perhaps in person, if anyone would like, in addition to doing it on Zoom and Facebook Live, having it right here outside Chabad Rechavia. If you're interested, please send me a message, an email or a WhatsApp message, and we'll consider, even if we obviously would be only up to 20 people. As we know, we're allowed to do outside in the open area, and of course with physical distancing, not, God forbid, social distancing, only physical distancing, 2 meters apart. And so please let me know. In the meantime, Raya, do you see any more questions in the comments, in Zoom, or in Facebook? Or perhaps you or Mordechai have a question. Can you hear me? Raya, Mordechai? I'm not hearing you, so I'm assuming that everybody still hears me.
I don't have any more questions, Rabbi.
Okay, thank you, Mordechai. Okay, Chanoch, thank you very, very much for doing.
I could add one thing, Rabbi.
Of course, Chanoch, of course.
When we considered God's plan and the nature of creation, human beings are the only part of creation that have the power to accept or reject what Hashem puts before us and our teachings. So the reason Hashem has given us free choice is that this is where we can really change the world and change relationships all over the world. Instead of having taking relationships and relationships based on taking advantage of other people, we can have a sense of relatedness that changes the whole character and quality of the world. And we need that so much because we see all the areas of difficulties in the world, nations trying to take advantage of others and people taking advantage of others. Hashem gives us this very, very special quality, and it's up to us to make the right choice. And that's our prayer, because that's the only way we're going to have improvement in the world. All the other isms and teachings in the social science departments and so forth, they have truly never worked. So there must be another way. And the other way is through what Torah teaches us and what Hashem provides, not only for the Jew, but for everybody in the world. How remarkable is that? There is no other document or no other way of thinking that says you either have to be with us or you're against us. And Torah teaches that both the Jew and the non-Jew could be partners together in creating the world that will benefit everyone and will make Hashem smile. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very, very much. And of course, thank you to our entire crowd. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us. And Bezrat Hashem, we look forward to seeing you very soon in person, whether on Shabbos or hopefully soon in classes. Toda Rabba. All the best.
Toda Rabba.